Welcome to another webinar with Open Source Integrators. Today we're going to talk about manufacturing. And as you know, there are several types of manufacturing. We divided these webinars into process manufacturing and discrete manufacturing. Today's particular topic is going to be process manufacturing. And our expert is Balaji Kannan. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Balaji Kannan. I'm a technical manager with Ursa Information Systems. My expertise lies in inventory, warehouse, and manufacturing. And I'm glad you called me to talk about this topic, share our views. In fact, I would rather say we discuss on process manufacturing today.
So yes,
that'll be great.
So let's dive right in.
Yeah.
And process manufacturing, of course, is absolutely critical when it comes to process in food manufacturing and pharmaceutical manufacturing, where regulations are critical and you have to adhere to certain guidelines and processes in order to get certificates. There are probably other manufacturing industries.
I think you covered them pretty well. So pharma, food, and say fuel industries, anything that works with that, they have very stringent requirement regulations that control the material they procure, how they produce, and various quality inspections that need to happen throughout their supply chain process, including manufacturing. So it's very important for these organizations to have the right kind of tools. And when it is open source, it gives them the flexibility they need to take care of their manufacturing process. They adhere to the regulations and the rules, and they're able to continue with their work uninterrupted with the flexibility they need.
Well, and I assume just on top of all the processes that are adhered to, it also really matters to the bottom line, because once you figure out your processes and you figure out your weak points in that whole front to end process, you can now eliminate waste, lean manufacturing, and increase your bottom line.
Yeah, good you brought up the lean manufacturing aspect of it. The just-in-time manufacturing is very critical for process manufacturing industries because a lot of things they work with are perishable.
Yeah.
They expire. You can't use them anymore because they don't pass the standard of a proper good edible input in case of a food industry or a pharma industry where the materials are not toxic or right grade of material that has FDA approval. So it becomes very important for process industry to have a just-in-time manufacturing. They only get the raw material in at the right time, just before they need manufacturing. So that's a very good insight into process manufacturing right there. And talking about the way we work with these companies is we analyze and try to figure out what kind of input preparation that they need. Is it simple few products that they get in and transform them, or they buy a whole series of things that they have to mix and match to get to their final product. So the quality aspect of it becomes very important, and traceability becomes important too. I'm sure you have good exposure to materials traceability, Wolfgang. So why don't you talk a bit about that?
Well, my background is in supply chain and manufacturing, or more supply chain logistics actually, that's related to manufacturing. And traceability becomes one of the key items in supply chain management today. Every consumer in the future will probably want to know exactly where the product came from, how it was processed. So that traceability also applies to the process manufacturing elements, and we have serial number tracing and batch level tracing. So we can at any time trace materials back to their origin and how they were actually manufactured through the process. So
and it's a key requirement from organizations like FDA or pollution boards and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to recall things immediately if there is a problem in the market.
Yes, and then it goes back to
the
suppliers.
Yes,
actually.
It goes back to the suppliers.
It's a whole supply chain. The suppliers bring in material, the inventory gets already tracked and traced, and through the manufacturing process down to the finished good to the consumer. And as a consumer, I would like to know where all this stuff comes from. So the business processes in Odoo and the open resource planning tools that we have allow us to nicely trace through this entire process. And it starts with the purchasing process. It's not just the manufacturing. It ties all together.
Yes, it's truly a supply chain process here with multiple players in the field, suppliers and the manufacturer and the customer, end user, and with so many controls required at each of these phases as the product moves along, the raw material moves along the supply chain and becomes a finished product.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about process manufacturing, please just look at our website. You can check that out at opensourceintegrators.com. There are also more webinars, including the discrete manufacturing webinar. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to contact us anytime.
Yeah. In our next episode, we will talk about discrete manufacturing and the challenges that come with that, and how do we use open source solutions to handle that. Thank you for watching us.
Thank you.